Hey, you guys. So today we are learning all about DEBER. So sorry if I'm moving this board around. I'm always trying to make sure I have the right lighting on here to make sure you all can see. Everything's nice and clear for you all without getting this glare in there from my kitchen light. But okay, so yeah, today we're going over DEBER. And all of these verbs build on each other because at the end of the day, I'm teaching you all the greatest, most common foundational verbs because when you know enough verbs, you can form better sentence structures. So it's all about knowing the good quintessential foundational verbs. And then as you can see, they all join together and they build off one another. So if you were here for some of the prior lessons, we learned about gustar, interesar, encantar, all those things. And then as we went further throughout the week, they eventually started to build onto each other because we remembered what they were and how to use them in different contexts. So all the verbs, for a little while, they start to build on each other. So that's why I like to teach you all the most common and foundational ones. That way, when you're making sentences, you have some more to choose from. And then your sentences can be a whole lot more detailed because you know more words. And hola, life strategies now. I didn't miss you. I didn't forget about you up there. So yeah, so that's what we're learning about today. So today is a DEBER. Now, quick reminder. So if you were here last night and we went over hacer, I just posted to my stories like 2 minutes ago that it's on YouTube. So check the Black Girl Spanish YouTube page to find any lessons that you didn't, if you found any lessons that you didn't get in on or you came late or you missed it, the Black Girl Spanish YouTube page will has all of our videos on it that we've been learning all week. So you can always go back and rewatch it. Okay, so let's get started. So with DEBER, DEBER has 3 different meanings to it. It can mean should, it can mean it can mean must. So I know everybody out there, there's always somebody telling you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Well, now we're going to be saying how to say that in Spanish, okay? So it's like giving advice. So DEBER has 3 different words for it. It can be should, or must. But I'll be honest with you. The most common is should because should and must, that's basically the same thing. And I don't hear too many people saying it like I owe you or you owe me, but I'm putting that in there for informational purposes. But as a rule of thumb, if you just need one general definition, it means should. Okay, should. So let's go over our verb conjugations because these are our 5 friends that we're going to be using today to help us with our sentence formation. So, debo, that's I should. That is the yo form. That means I should. Debes, that's the to form. So that's you should. Debe, that's the el usted form, which means he or she should. Debemos is the nosotros form, meaning we should. We should. And deben, which is the ellos form, which is they should. So that's they should. So to go over it again, debo, I should. Debes, you should. Debe, he or she should. Debemos, we should. And then deben is they should. And here is our easy formula for today. The way we're going to be using is DEBER plus the infinitive. So DEBER plus the infinitive. So when I say DEBER, I put the infinitive because we don't know what form of DEBER we should use. So for the sake of the formula, it's sitting in DEBER, but really we're going to be using one of these formats to replace it with, plus the infinitive. And who remembers what an infinitive verb is? We talked about it a couple times in the last lesson. Hola, tele. And then I also did a video on it. So does anybody remember what an infinitive verb means? If I say leave a verb in the infinitive, does anybody remember what that means? Exactly, Kikori James. Yes. It just means not conjugated. And life strategies now, you're correct, the to form. So to eat, to drink, to dance, to talk, all of that means the infinitive. It just means it's not conjugated. All right, so let's look at some examples. All right, so let's say, for example, let's see. We write the sentence. Debo estudiar español. So let's break apart this sentence. Debo estudiar español. So let's look to see, first of all, do we have it in the right format? Let's look at our formula up here. It has to be some form of deber plus the infinitive. So I see a form of deber and I see the infinitive. Okay, great job. Now let's look at what it says. Debo. Now what we put up here, debo, that looks like it's the yo form, which means I should. Estudiar is a verb that means to study. And we have Spanish. So we put all together and it is I should study Spanish. Okay, easy enough. So let's write down the translation for that. So I should study Spanish. All right, I should study Spanish. That's our first example of being able to use deber in the form of a sentence. We chose to use the I first, or the I version of it, which is the yo form. So we chose to put in the yo form, which is debo. We chose the verb estudiar, and we added a little bit on the end and said español. So we made it a full sentence. Debo estudiar de español. I should study Spanish. Okay. Now let's try a different form of deber, because we just used the yo form. So let's try this one. All right, so let's say you're talking to a friend and you really want them to come and watch a movie with you, but they have to work. You could tell them, hey, you should work later. So let's look at how this works. Debes, up here, that means it's the to form. So that is literally you should. Trabajar, work. Luego, later. You should work later. And that's how we use it in the to form. So let's write the translation for that. So you should work later. Like, don't work now. You should work later. All right. And if we look back up here at our formula, we are using it the correct way. We have put some form of deber, and we've included an infinitive. Thank you, Asia K, for the heart. That's so sweet. All right. So yes, this is another sentence. And see, sentence formation gets easier as long as you know how to use the verb and you know what tense you want to use it in. So yeah, debes trabajar luego. You should work later. Okay, so that was using deber in the to form, like you should do something. So now let's do another one. Okay, good question. The vosotros form. So yeah, there is a vosotros form, but I don't teach that. Vosotros is used down there in Spain, and the type of Spanish I teach is the Latin American, Central American Spanish. And I remember being in school, they didn't even teach us that in school either. That was more like the Castilian type Spanish. And so it exists, but for most people's needs, we wouldn't use that format. We just use the 5 that are up here. Okay, so now let's use the el usted form, so the he or she form, and let's make it a full sentence. We can say, let's go ahead and say, Carlos debe descansar más. All right. So for this particular sentence, it says, Carlos debe descansar más. So for those of you who have never seen the verb descansar, it means to rest. To rest. Your fave77 says, hey, my favorite show was on. Yes, and all of you guys are my favorite viewers. Thank you. So, you said I learned so much here. I am glad. Well, teaching is something I really love to do, so I'm glad. So yeah, so Carlos debe descansar más. This person's trying to say Carlos should rest more. Maybe Carlos works too hard. Maybe he doesn't have any fun. And somebody's like saying, hey, Carlos debe descansar más. Carlos should rest more. All right, so let's put the English down there. Carlos's name is not going to translate, so it stays the same. Carlos should. This word means rest more. So yeah, so this is a really good verb for giving advice. Like, you're talking to somebody that's your friend, or maybe somebody that's not your friend. You're just trying to let them know what they should do, or maybe what they should not do. This is a good verb that we use for that. So just so you know, descansar, that is a verb that means to rest. And so the sentence reads, Carlos debe descansar más. Carlos should rest more. And let's look back at our formula. Did we use some format of deber? We did. Did we use the right form of deber? Exactly, we did. So Carlos, that fits into the el usted form, which means he or she. All right. And then we use the infinitive verb, descansar, and then we added más at the end. So that's how we know the sentence is correct. So just always remember, if you see a name in a sentence, Carlos, Ana, Lisa, Juan, that is more than likely signaling the el usted form, and then you should be using debe. All right, so we don't want to mess it up and say like, Carlos, we don't want to say something like Carlos debo descansar. That's not correct, because now you're saying I should. So if you look at our tenses up here, that's used for the yo form. But Carlos is a person, and that's talking about the el usted form, which means like the he or she format. So that has to be debe. Okay. All right, so let's look at the other example. Let's see. Let's look at another example. So we use the el usted form. Somebody said, if I want to say it to Carlos, but still say his name first, do I use debes? If I want to say it to Carlos, yeah. So that's a good question. Asia K said, so she wants to say like, hey, if I'm talking to Carlos himself, do I use debes? That's correct. So let's say you're actually talking to Carlos on a one-on-one conversation. And so you would say, Carlos, debes descansar más. So yes, you can still use a name, but you have to always just remember, what's the context? Are you talking to someone? Because if you are talking to someone, it's going to be debes. It would only be debe if you're talking in third person, like you're talking about a person. If you're talking about someone, then yes, you can use debe. If you're talking to someone, then you can use debes. That's how that one works. Okay? All right. Okay. Lady, read the comments. Yeah. So Queen Elizabeth, I do the best I can. I'm writing and reading and teaching, but I'll get to it. I try not to hold everything up. So let me come back to the comments and read something. Hold on. Okay, so if I get it, the verb after deber is not conjugated. That is correct. So if we look up here in our formula, yes, anytime, and it's not just for deber, it's any verb, but for right now, we're talking about deber. Anytime that you have a verb that is conjugated, the second one cannot be conjugated. So for example, let's go back to our first example when we said debo estudiar. Now, as you can see, debo has been conjugated. So if this is a conjugated verb, because we know it's conjugated because debo means I should. So if we have a verb that is conjugated, the one directly after it has to remain infinitive. It's the rules of Spanish. English has their rules, Spanish has theirs. So debo, which is conjugated, the one right after it, it has to remain infinitive. 100% of the time. You cannot have two verbs right beside each other conjugated. You cannot say debo estudio. I should, I study. Can't do that. It has to be first verb conjugated, second one infinitive when they're right by each other. Okay? Okay. Someone said, okay, debemos descansar ahora. Good job, the introspective introvert. We should rest now. That is a good one. All right, so good. I see you getting ahead to the next tense. How did you know we was about to go to nosotros next? Let's use your example. Very good. So this person says, debemos descansar ahora. So let's say you and your friends are on a road trip. Y'all been driving for hours. And you're like, you know what? We should rest now. Then it's debemos descansar ahora. Debemos descansar ahora. All right. So, oh, thank you, your fave77. She said, let's get the likes up for this amazing teacher. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, put the hearts in there. I'm getting to you, Queen Elizabeth, 1 minute. Okay, so we should rest now. And that's how we use the we form, the nosotros. Anytime you see debemos, that is the nosotros form, which means we. So debemos descansar ahora, you're saying we should rest now. Okay. All right. Descansar, no, that does not mean to leave. To leave is salir. Yeah, that's another word. It means salir means to leave. Okay, so Queen Elizabeth, I should to study. That's the way Spanish is. Sometimes it's not directly translatable. So when we have that verb about if the first verb is conjugated, the second one's not, that concept is their concept. So to us, it may look like I should to study, but to them, that's perfect Spanish. It means I should study. So try not to try to translate it directly. Just think of it as that's the rule. First verb is conjugated, second verb infinitive. That is just the way that is. Okay, thank you for the rose, Kikuri James. Thank you. That's so sweet. Okay. Okay. All right. So now the next one up. Okay. Yeah, and thank you for your patience. Queen Elizabeth, I use all the different formats, so I'm going to get to ustedes, okay? We go through one at a time, and I don't rush. I go in order, so everything is going to get used before we get to our quiz part of the day, okay? Okay, let's see. We said we should rest now. Oh, wow, somebody's name on here is actually Carlos. You know, I just used your name in an example that we did earlier. I don't know how long you've been on here, but yeah, we actually used your name in an example, Carlos, and I didn't even know that. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at, let's see. Hola, Katrina. Gracias por venir. Thank you for coming. All right, so if I missed your comment, I'm sorry about that. You can put that in the comment again, and next time I look at the screen, then I'll see it. Also, El says, debemos estudiar todos los días. That is a great way to use debemos. We should study every day. Debemos estudiar todos los días. Exactly. Okay. All right, so now, Katrina, how would I know that? I don't know. This is a Spanish class. But if you are planning to study abroad or you are moving to a Spanish-speaking country, you can go on my bio and I do teach a class that's going to help you get prepared for that. So when you do find a study abroad program, that's going to be a good course for you to brush up on your Spanish. Okay, so this one, now this form is deben. Deben is the ellos ustedes form, otherwise known as the they form, the them form. So let's say you're talking about two people and you are not included in that group. That would be called the ellos ustedes form, the they, the them, those kind of things. All right, so let's do an example using deben. Okay, so we can say, let's see, deben, let's see, decir. Vet Jose, yeah, I talked about that earlier about the vosotros form. We don't use that over here. I teach the South American, Central, Latin American Spanish, and now the vosotros, that's always been known for Spain, and that's not the kind that we teach here. So it's a valid tense and all that, but I don't teach or talk about that. Me as a Spanish speaker who's been speaking it for years, I've only ever had to use these. I have never in my life used the vosotros form. So if I don't use it, I'm not going to teach about it. Okay. Deben decir la verdad. Deben decir la verdad. Okay, so that is close. I like how someone guessed they talk too much. It's all right. So if it was going to be talk, this word would be hablar. But this verb is decir. And decir is a verb meaning to tell or to say. So decir has two different definitions, to say or to tell. And it's going to depend on the context of the sentence. So let's say, deben decir la verdad. Think about like a courtroom. And let's say the lawyer is saying, okay, they should tell the truth. Good job. Yes, some people already said that. So let's go with, first of all, deben is they should tell the truth. Now, this is just somebody giving advice because the whole nature of DEBER is more like should, or, you should do this. It's like an advice type of a verb. So this is how we use it in the they format. Deben decir la verdad. They should tell the truth. And if you want to even, add more detail to it, we can add actual names. Because whenever you're using the they form, that's implying that you're talking about multiple people. So we could say something like Ana y Luis deben decir la verdad. Ana y Luis deben decir la verdad. So they, Anna and Luis, should tell the truth. So see, Anna and Luis justifies the use of deben because that is the ellos form, otherwise known as the they form. Okay? So that's how we do that. So yeah, you said so many new vocab words for my notebook. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. And these are some pretty good ones too. I'm teaching y'all verbs that, they use in everyday life. So these are verbs you could actually use. All right. Okay, so for those of you who are new here, our typical breakdown is that I will explain and define the verb. I'll give out the verb tenses, and then I will put our formula here that we'll use that tells us how to properly use it. We go through all the examples and all the different tenses and all the formats, and then we do game time. And that's what part we are in class. It's game time. And the game time is where I test you guys on what you know. So I've sit here and I've done all of these examples with you in all the different forms. And now we're going to practice translating it and see if you all know what I said. So I will start with, I'll start with Spanish first, and you all give me the English. Let's see. They said listo. Good. I'm glad you're ready. So someone can tell me in the comments, what is this in the, what's the translation of this? Excelente. Good job. Yes. I should eat now. Exactly. Should. Yep. So yeah, 99% of y'all got it right. So I should, because that's today's verb. And the reason why it's debo is because, it's the yo form. Comer is the infinitive. So I should eat now. All right. Great job, you guys. All right. Now, I'm going to say it in English, and then you all type it in Spanish. Oh, wait, I said I would put it in English. What am I putting debo in here for? It's okay, Deanna. It's all right. I know it's a game. We like to all try to be in there first. It's all right. Okay, great job. Yes, look at all of us using the right format. Exactly. Yeah, I love how you guys knew that because it's you, now that's the to form that means debes. And I'm glad to see everybody knows, that sleep is dormir. That's very good. I try to keep it at the very foundational vocabulary because around this stage in Spanish, then, that's around the verbs that we learn, to eat, to sleep, to go, to do, all that kind of stuff. Yep, we're in the present tense. Somebody in there put deberías. That's conditional. We haven't gone over that. So right now it's present tense. But I'll give you a hint. For the person that put deberías, our answers are up here. So it's only ever going to be the words up here because it says present tense. So if it's not up here, chances are that's not the right verb to use. All right. So now I got another one for y'all. So we typically do one Spanish to English. We do an English to Spanish. And then I write a sentence and you all have to correct it. So there'll be like a mistake in there. Let's see. All right. Ana y Luis debe descansar. Tell me what's wrong with the sentence. I'm trying to say Anna and Luis should rest. Ana y Luis. Yep, you are correct. So the mistake here is the verb tense of deber. So we are correct to at least have deber in the infinitive. So we're supposed to have some form of deber plus the infinitive. We have some form of deber plus the infinitive, but this is the wrong tense. Deber, that signifies él, ella, meaning he or she, talking about one person. But I said Ana Luis, that is two people, which means it should be the deben form, which is they, them, more than one person. So we're going to cross that out and we're going to put deben, okay? Because we're talking about more than one person.